and an intercontinent experience. FANTASTICRADIOUK.co.uk, home of possibilities.
I am exceedingly grateful that we can have this conversation. My name, once again, is Bonti, and I have a great friend of mine who I met about 10, 12 years ago, or 10 years ago, and I've been tracking, watching, seeing a lot of things that she's been doing. And my friend walks in today, and I'm thinking, where do I remember you? Where do I know you? She said, oh, so and so. So, ladies and gentlemen, good friend Marilyn Devine spends the next 30 minutes with me. Marilyn, good afternoon.
Oh, hello. It is lovely to be here and fantastic to see you again.
Thank you. You know, I've been reading your website and I saw photo reading. And I've been wondering, what is it all about? What was that?
Photo reading is the thing that absolutely changed my brain.
Right.
In a nutshell, it's how to read at 25,000 words a minute, and how to photo read a book in 5 minutes, and how to remember and recall and utilize what you've read.
Right.
So I always call it's almost like next generation reading and learning, because it's about taking in massive amounts of data and then sifting and sorting for what you actually want. But it all starts with having a clear purpose, a clear intention, and using facets of your brain that I feel are often, they're just sitting dormant, waiting to be activated.
Right, interesting. Where does it come from? Where does photo reading coming from? Are we going back centuries? We're going back, where does it originally come from?
We're going back nearly 40 years, so it's very new in the grand scheme of things, created by a wonderful guy called Dr. Paul Sheely out in Minnesota in the United States, and created officially in March 1981.
Okay.
And he was a very slow reader, and so first studied speed reading, knew that there is more that he could do, and so started researching, started bringing in other elements that he'd been studying at the time, so aspects of personal development, also looked at child psychology and the way that children learn, and then started building this system, which is the photo reading as it stands today.
So what's the difference between photo reading and speed reading? Are they any different?
I would say, I guess if you maybe think you've got a Ford and a Ferrari, they're both going to get you from A to B, but one will maybe do it a bit more quickly, a bit more efficiently, with a bit more speed.
I hear you.
And so with speed reading, you're doing speeds of around 1,500 words per minute. With photo reading, we start at 25,000 words a minute. So same vehicle, just different levels of what you want to do.
Right. Interesting. So how does a person look at, say a person sees a book, you want to read a book, you get a book from the bookshop and you get it, and sometimes you see some of these books and they look very frightening, you know, huge, humongous and all the rest of it. Where do you start? You start from the forward, you start from the back, you go to the content. What do you do? How do you... Talk me through the process. Somebody's listening, they're thinking, yeah, Marilyn is saying all these things. How does it work? So practically, talk me through the sequence, the process.
So practically, you get your book, you look at the front and the back cover, and your first question to yourself is, what is my purpose? As in, what do I want to know? What do I want to learn? What do I want to get from this book?
Right.
The next thing you do is get yourself physically and mentally prepared. So that's a little step in its own right. We may come back to that. And then you get into the actual photo reading, which is 5 steps. So the first thing you do with the book is you do what you call a preview. And that is just 60 to 90 seconds. So about a minute and a half for a typical book. You're going to look at the front cover, look at the back cover, look at the index, look at the content. So you basically what you've just outlined yourself. And you're just fanning backwards and forwards through the book to get a sense of the style, the layout, you know, how does the author present the information, how do they lay it out, and what you're doing neurologically is giving yourself that first layer of familiarity. Then when you've done that and you have a clear sense of this is my purpose, this is what I want to get, you go to the stage where you're going to actually photo read the book, and that's where you're turning the pages at about 1 second per page. So it will take about 5 minutes to photo read a book from start to finish. With the larger tomes that you might be talking about, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and you're turning the pages. 1 second per page from start to finish. and then you give yourself a little bit of a breather, what we call an incubation break.
Right.
You then do something that we call a post view, which is around, I give my students 3 to 5 minutes. And here you're going through the book a bit more consciously this time, because for you to photo read at 25,000 words a minute, that's not a conscious mind process.
Right.
It's what they call your other than conscious mind, your non-conscious
Right.
mind. And then once you've done that, you do your post view, like, okay, in terms of my purpose, the first thing I want to get, where is it located within this book? Is it in chapter 12? Is it on page 96? Is it actually located throughout the book? So I'm going to be using more of my intuition to find it. And then the fifth and final stage is what we call activation.
Right.
And that's like an umbrella step, because there are several things within activation. And I call that step the data mining, because there are 4 or 5 different ways that you can start pulling information from the book. But for people to go from, I don't even know what photo reading is, to starting to get information from the book can be as little as 45 minutes. Right. I have students that come in on when I run the workshops, we do a Friday afternoon stroke early evening, and then a Saturday and Sunday, 9:30 to 6:30. By the Friday night, people are already having what I call those aha moments and those light bulb moments where they'll go, what did you do to my book? I was just thinking I wanted this, and I opened it at exactly the right page, because it's almost though your interaction and relationship with the book just starts to change.
Marilyn, you use the word interaction. Go further and dig deep with the interaction with the book. It means that the way we approach a book, our mental state, plays a major role or part in how we even deduce content from the book. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely, because even when you said, you see a big book, it's scary, like, it's daunting. I remember there was one particular lady who had come in on the Friday. She was doing a teacher training exams and was thinking of giving up because she just could not cope with the level of study. And she brings the book in, this really big A4, and slams it on the table. Like, we all looked around like, what was that? And hated that book. And she was saying to the group, if any of you have insomnia and can't sleep, I recommend this book. You'll be sleeping in no time. And so we do the weekend, and on the Sunday I'm doing something at the front of the room, and I hear her saying, now where's my baby, where's my Bible? In a real joy. And I thought, let me just see what she goes for.
Right.
She reached for the same book, and she was beaming. And I said to her, hold that there, that's a Kodak moment. And I've got a photograph of her with the book. The smile lights up the room.
Right.
And she went from, I am going to give up on my career choice, to, I love this book and it's easy. And what we got here on the table,
That was easy.
this button goes off throughout the weekend.
Right.
I say to my students, the only time you don't press the button is when we're doing a guided process, a relaxation process.
Right.
But any other time something happens and you go from, I was fearful of this book, I was overwhelmed by this material, I was struggling, and now suddenly I'm pulling out information like it's just being handed to me on a plate. You press the easy button. So that's what you hear throughout the weekend. That was easy, because people are amazed that once you change your perception of the book, it's almost like it becomes your friend. And it's like, I always say to people, imagine the author is sitting in front of you, and you are having a conversation.
I like that.
And the author is going to offer you the information, both physically and also if you're sitting in an exam, you're like, okay, what was that again? The author's going to come into your mind and say, it was this. And I've had people who have failed exams 3 or 4 times, pass with flying colours after a few hours of learning to photo read. And that's, I was going to say it's fantastic. I was thinking maybe another word, but it is fantastic.
Thank you.
It was a game changer for me.
Right. It fascinates me how people, I tend to read here and there. I wouldn't say I'm a bookworm, but I read quite a bit. But what I see, what you're saying, and what I love about what you're saying is the power that an individual has got that goes away without realizing, because they suddenly step into this zone of power, knowing that the author is right there with me in the room, and the person is talking to me, explaining stuff to me. When a student comes to you person struggling in class, reading and not understanding, or retaining the content? How does that happen? But before you get to how you help them to come through that, what is it that causes people to read and not fully understand? What is happening in that process? Is it because they don't really have that mental picture? Is it because they're reading slowly? Is it because they don't approach reading from a friendly place? Talk to me about that. And when you finish with that, help me to understand how you can help, or you do help your students to make that transition.
I'm going to say yes, all of the above and so much more.
Right.
One of the things that oftentimes will happen, I will say, and I had an experience years ago, the film Mamma Mia came out.
Yes.
And a friend, a lovely
Yes.
lady called Michelle, said, a group of us are going to watch the movie. Do you want to come? I was like, no, don't like ABBA. Not a fan, not going. And she's like, oh, but we're going for dinner afterwards. And I went, all right, I'll come and meet you guys. Who was the person, do you think, was in the aisle in the cinema singing and dancing to every song, and I knew the words of every single song?
Right.
And I wasn't. And now I am now a big ABBA fan. I'm like, man, I didn't realize how much I love them. But that's the analogy I often use. When people go to, let's say, to the cinema or have a favorite movie, they can describe the movie to you like they were the script writer and the director and the lead actor.
Right.
Ask them about Pythagoras' theorem, which they probably studied much more diligently. They can't tell you. And one of the things about it is you're in a different state when you're watching a movie. You're relaxed, you're open, you're not going, oh my God, I've got to remember this and I've got to do that. You're just enjoying the film. And so one of the things we're doing with the photo reading, when people walk into the room, even if they know me, they open the door, they stop for a moment, they look confused, and they go to walk out again. Because when they open the door, there are toys on the table. There are coloured pens and, coloured felt tip pens. There are cartoons all over the walls, and people think they've walked into the wrong room. The reason those things are there is to help put people into a relaxed state, an open, playful mindset, which is a state that you're in when you learn most naturally. Because what we want to do is start using more of the senses and more of the learning styles, because the more of the learning styles you can bring into the learning experience, the more powerful your learning will be. And when you're in the academic mode, it's normally just the analytical and the logical that's coming into play, and people are like, oh my God, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Whereas when you're out enjoying a film, there's the kind of the senses are going, there's color, there's visuals, there's sound, there's music, there's maybe conversation with the people you are with, there's dialogue with yourself, like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. And that's exactly what we're then recreating when I'm teaching photo reading, because we also want to tap into what you call the multiple intelligences. There's a guy called Howard Gardner, if anybody wants to look it up. And I think the best example I've ever seen of all of the multiple intelligences and all of the learning styles in action is Sesame Street. Because I learned to count with the count. And to this day, I can still hear the count and see him. 1, 2, 3. And that's how I learnt my ABC. The only bit I didn't know when I got to school was the LMNP, because it was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And because they're American, LMNP, Q, R, S. And I haven't got kids, so it's not that I then spent many years watching.
Right, I hear you.
But they use all of the learning styles, they use all of the multiple intelligences, and that information just goes straight almost into your neurology and straight into the brain.
Talking children and learning styles. Do you work with children, or would you work with children who are in schools and struggling to learn and struggling to process content in school? With children, they haven't gone through the process. The memories are very limited to daddy, mommy, where they go and all that. If they're struggling in school and they come to you, or a parent brings their child to you, what do you do for them? If the child is struggling, say reading and retaining content, what do you do? How would photo reading help a child that is struggling in school? And when it comes to Marilyn?
And people often say, what's the age group? I have people in the workshop from age 7 to 70 plus, and they will be in the same workshop oftentimes. One of the superstars, and weirdly, I shared the Facebook memory, I think day before yesterday. I'll tag you in it when I get home.
Okay.
Eve, she was 7 when she came to the photo reading workshop.
Right.
She ran rings around everyone.
Right.
Because she isn't yet fully into the analytical mindset. However, she ran into problems when she went back to school. Because when you're at school, you're meant to read every single word and you point to the word, you say the word. Now Eve is like flicking the pages and doing mind maps, and she was getting into trouble. Okay. So, you know, did a coaching session with her and her mum, and we said, look, here, Eve, this is the deal. When you're in school, do exactly what your teachers tell you to do. When you're at home, use your photo reading. What then started to happen is Eve was in the playground running underground photo reading groups, where she's got a little group of friends, and they're all in the corner of the playground, and they're teaching each other what to do. But I think coming back to your question about children who are struggling, there's a lovely guy called Barry Birch, who was the deputy head at Queen's Park School in London. And somebody had told him about photo reading, so he brought me into the school. And one of the first things that happened, they had a guy who was one of the students. His name was Daniel, and he was in Harry Potter, but it's not Daniel Radcliffe. He's an actor, and he was struggling. He failed his mocks. And so I was going in on doing 6-week blocks, enrichment programs, teaching photo reading in the school. 3 weeks later, he resat them and got a B. So Barry Birch was like, well, what happened? And he said, I just did what Miss Marilyn said with the photo reading. Went from fail to a B. And I've had people with dyslexia, dyspraxia. One of the very first one-to-one photo reading coaching sessions I did, lovely young man in Watford where I live, and his mum, he'd just been thrown out of private school. Because his brother got in because he was academically very bright. He had dyslexia and dyspraxia. Wasn't making the grades, so was booted out, had to go back to local comprehensive. So I just did maybe an hour and a half one-to-one at his house. Met her a few weeks later, and she says, I was meant to tell you, I've been meaning to get in touch. She says he's struggling with history, names, dates, places, facts, figures. When you've got dyslexia and dyspraxia, that's all over the place. She said he got a B in his history exam. He got a Saturday job in W.H. Smith. He has spiked his hair and he has a girlfriend. Now, I can't...
No, hold on. No. He did what? He spiked his hair?
Spiked his hair, got a girlfriend.
Okay, moving on right along.
And I can't say all of that is to do with photoing, but the confidence that comes from knowing you're not stupid, from knowing it's really just finding your style, and then being able to overlay that onto the system, the power and the confidence that comes from that. And many of the students who come in, there's one, I shared the quote a couple of days ago from we had a family fly in from Switzerland to attend the workshop. And the 11-year-old, she said, thank you so much. I feel so much more confident in myself, and I believe in myself. And that is a gift, to have that at 11 years old. I didn't get that till I was 32. So a lot. It's seriously, it is, when I say it's life-changing, it's a game changer. I do not use those words lightly at all.
Two things. How does one reach Marilyn Devonish, your website? To quickly tell us, as we carry on with our conversation, tell us how people can access your services and where you get a training. I know you do it in Jury Eating in Watford or something, but please tell us all the details. I've got a few questions jumping at me, so please tell me, how can one get in touch with you? Okay, so the website, I'll say it and then I'll spell it because it's an unusual spelling. That's fine. It's www.transformationstm.com. So trance, Trance, formations is F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS, TM as in trademark, so transformationstm.com/photo reading. That's the word photo with reading on the end. And social media wise, it's /Marilyn Devonish. And Marilyn is MARILYN, and Devonish is DEV for Victor, ONISH. And I run in-person workshops. There's also an on-demand 3-day video webinar training, so people can do the whole certification class anywhere in the world, from your home, from your office. It's a video webinar that we filmed live with students, and people can now take that class. Wonderful. There's a home study course and the photo reading book. So lots of different ways. And again, we want to touch into all of the learning styles if people can't make their way to do the in-person workshop, which is 2.5 days. Right. And so they could come through and, go on the website. Absolutely. Can you tell me the website again? www.transformationstm.com, and then it's /photo reading, or if they go to the site, along the top there's a tab that says photo reading. It's practically easy to navigate your website, I must confess, because I've been there a few times, and my little boy he's done his exam, he's now going to secondary school, but for a long time I kept wondering, there must be different ways of thinking and learning. And as you were talking, you talked about the multiple intelligences. And I've always been curious about that. Talk to me about multiple intelligences. What's that?
The premise is that the more of the styles you can use, so we tend to use the linguistic and analytical quite a lot. So we're talking, and it might be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, but you've also got your natural environment. You've got what you call the interpersonal and the intrapersonal. So the interpersonal is you and I talking. The intrapersonal would be if I was inside my head going, well, what am I going to do next? And da, 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 da. So you're having a conversation with yourself. There's also things like the musical intelligences, because music is powerful. In terms of stimulating the brain. So when you start bringing all of these things into the mix, it's like the brain gets activated in a completely different way. So this thing here that's on the table is called the couche ball. We do a lot of games with the couche ball, where I'm getting students to stand up and they throw the ball, and when you catch the ball, you have to maybe say the next step in the photo reading or give us a clue about what you're going to do next. But the thing about it is, because I'm getting to do this, we're now using the kinesthetics. We're also using the spatial awareness. So it takes their focus of, oh my God, I've got to do this and I've got to remember that. And now your focus is partly on catching the ball, but also you're using the body. So we're moving into the realm of what we call educational kinesiology, where you're crossing the midline of the body to activate the brain. But the more of the senses you can bring into the learning environment, the more powerful the learning is. And let's just say I have someone who's struggling to remember something. I'll say, what's your favorite song? They will tell me. I'll say, great. What you're going to do, take this thing that you're wanting to remember, overlay it onto the song. So rather than you singing, whatever the tune is that you want to go for, you take those words out, put in the formula, put in the equation, put in the phrases, and that's the song you're going to sing. Because music, there's a guy called Don Campbell, the Mozart effect is called, and he figured out that there are particular compositions that will stimulate the brain in different ways. So I say one of the things you may want to do is have some classical music in the back as well, just gently, if you're somebody who works well with a little bit of distraction. But you were saying earlier about the power. I often used to say you're tapping into your limitless potential. And then about 5 years ago, I had a doctor and trainee neurosurgeon come to the workshop. And he said, have you seen the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro? I said, no, I haven't. He says, Marilyn, you're doing everything in the movie just without the silver pill. And then he said, the one thing you're not doing is time shifting. He then came back on the Sunday afternoon. He said, I was wrong. I take that back. I says, what do you mean, Dr. Koss? He said, you are time shifting, because with the amount that we've learned, the amount that we've covered, the amount that we've done, I can't believe we've done it in 2.5 days. But I went on the Monday, I watched that movie. I was halfway through, I pressed pause, I rang Dr. Koss, I said, I see what you mean. And for a whole year after that, every single Sunday without fail, apart from if I was running a photo reading or if he was studying for a neurosurgeon exam, we would talk at least an hour, maybe 4 or 5, talking about neuroscience, talking about personal development, talking about how all of this overlays. And that culminated in the year later, I hired a lovely cinema in London at the One Aldrich Hotel. I got in contact with the film company. I said, I want to show your movie. I told them what I want to do. So they gave me a license, because you can't just hire a cinema and show someone's movie. So I showed the movie Limitless. Dr. Koss was there. His name is Dr. Koss Fantis. He was there talking about the neuroscience side and how it works. And then I was talking about the personal development side, and we brought that together. But we showed people the movie Limitless. And then Dr. Koss and I, then brought the whole thing together. But it really is about tapping into your limitless potential. It's not always about studying. You might want to improve your creativity, your intuition, your critical thinking and decision-making skills, your ability to speak in public and remember and recall what you want.